match is now officially a Judy Bagwell on a forklift match.
I can see my fantasy, I'm so consumed in bed. What I see takes over me, I'm blind beyond repair.
Was that the best AEW pay-per-view of all time?
I don't think it was the best. It was damn good.
No, it wasn't. Top five for sure. Top five fucking pay-per-view. Definite pay-per-view of 2022 so far. AEW Revolution. Top to bottom. There was very little fat in the card. Very few complaints I have. Whatever you're chewing on, don't do it the whole stream.
So, let's just get the negatives out of the way first on this one, because they're few and far between. I think one negative, but it was almost a necessary evil to happen on this. First off, let's pump on the brakes on the negative thing. First off, I am Ethan Hubbard. You can find me at Johnson Collins 3 on Twitter, and to my left is my esteemed co-host,
Clinton Davis. You can find me at PK Batman on Twitter and TikTok. And then you can also find us at On a Forklift Pod on Twitter. That's our community page for all the latest updates. You can also find us at Channel Snickerfritz on YouTube if you're watching us on Twitch, or Twitch is PK Batman 420 if you're watching us on YouTube. And yeah, holy shit, I got two negatives, and I'm just gonna knock these negatives out of the way because I really, really want to be positive for this whole thing. Stop fucking running pay-per-views till midnight on Sundays. Started an hour early. I don't care. I'm going to be positive the rest of this episode, but that's my one big critique, is if you're going to run a pay-per-view on Sunday, it can't run till midnight. We've got shit to do in the morning.
start that shit at 6 o'clock.
Start the buy-in at 6. If I can be home by 11, I'm cool. It gives me an hour to calm down and go to bed before I got to be up at 8. That's the only negative I really have. The only other one is not really a negative, but it's more on the whole, 5-hour pay-per-views on a Sunday. And, we're going to talk about something that just deserves praise, and that's Punk and MJF. What a fucking feud. AEW's best feud, period. You have anything to add on that? Do you think there's anyone better than that comes to your head?
Well, currently, no. I was just going to get the neg out of the way first. And
go ahead with your neg, 'cause that was my one neg.
So my negative on this, and it's almost a necessary evil, was the only spot in this entire card was the Britt Baker-Rosa match, in my opinion. It's the same shenanigans over and over again. Britt's got her cronies and Rosa's kind of alone. But we talked about this in person yesterday, and it's almost necessary that this happens this way. San Antonio on March 16th is it's in Rosa's home state. It's going to happen there. I think, as Russ has said in the past, and Clinton has said as well, that I think it's going to be a steel cage match. You're going to eliminate the outside interference. You're going to take everything away from it, and this is one of those weird times where AEW, who's not necessarily known for rubber matches, I think really the Adam Cole, Orange Cassidy is the only other one that I can really think of.
That wasn't really a rubber match either, because
this is one of those rare times with them that I feel like it's actually necessary. It needs to happen, but it needed to happen this needed to go this way. Otherwise, your secondary women's title outshone your main title, which you then debuted a new title as well. And the debuting of the new title was the high point in this match. It was definitely not the best outing by either person, and I am really kind of tired of the shenanigans that take place in the ring when these two specifically have put on a match before that was just an absolute banger. You know what they can do. You don't need to give us every other little thing.
You understand what they're capable of and what they went out and showed. Definite worst match on the card was Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. But those ladies also had the very, very difficult task of following Punk MJF, which was emotionally, mentally draining. Was there blood and violence? Yeah, but that match was mentally exhausting, which is a critique that I feel like because I said last week when they announced that the world title was going to main event. I thought that was a bad idea. I thought the second you put Punk and MJF out there, they're going to emotionally drain that crowd, and the crowd's going to go dead for a few matches. And that fucking happened because they were dead for the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa match. What match came after that? Wasn't that Moxley?
Trios. Oh, yeah.
No,
It was Moxley.
Moxley
Danielson.
and Danielson. Yeah, Brian Danielson. And like that match was probably the best wrestling match on the card, but the crowd was dead until the last 5 minutes because they were still recovering from Punk MJF. Like in this instance, that match was bigger than the title.
Well, credit to the guys on the card though for not just giving up. It's one of those things that everybody that followed that match went out there and did give it their all. I'm not saying they didn't. I feel like the Rosa Baker match was a little bit different. I feel like that was a means to that was just a transitional match. It was there because they needed a women's championship match on the card, but not because it really was going to be impactful with anything. Moxley and Danielson, absolute banger. Once again, these guys show that no matter who they're in the ring with, they are phenomenal. And then probably the biggest surprise of the night was just how well the trios match worked.
No, the biggest surprise of the night was fucking old man fucking pissed off dad of Danielson and Moxley came there, slapped the shit out of them, and put them in their place. William Regal, oh my God, William Regal leading up a fucking violence wrestling faction with Moxley and Danielson at the helm. Oh, fuck, I'm going to put a load into the fucking ceiling. So excited for that. So fucking excited. So many positives came out of this fucking show.
Biggest problem with these sweet groups is they always have shitty names. And this is probably going to sound shitty, but I like technical violence.
Yeah, I was trying to think is unscripted violence and then the technical wizard that is. Yeah, that works. I kind of like it. Yeah, it's going to be better than whatever they do with the Undisputed Era.
Yeah.
Paragon's the rumored one for them.
Yeah, that's what it's been since Kyle. Was it Kyle opened up his mouth and said that?
Yeah.
But he did do the air guitar this past week, so we got two shows in a row, Rampage and then this, with Kyle O'Reilly doing air guitar. So,
which I just love Kyle O'Reilly. He's one of my favorites. I could watch him all fucking day. But the one thing I said pretty much after every match up until Punk MJF was, how the fuck are they going to top that?
Right.
Because the card was structured phenomenal. Layla Hirsch and Chris Statlander, in my personal opinion, had the... Now it's a show. We were just talking about how fucking well stacked the card was and the placement on everything. Up until Punk MJF.
Adrenaline in my bowl on the Cody Rhodes to WrestleMania. Yeah, Cody goes. No. Guys, I am so happy on so many levels, and I am so thrilled to be here with you wonderful gentlemen this evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, Russell Joy on Broad, on Twitter, and from Snow the Goalie podcast. It's always a pleasure to have you on, my friend.
I cracked out the Truly lemonades for this episode today. So
isn't your fridge, isn't your garage fridge full of that shit?
Me?
It is.
It was. Mine was. The mango's the bomb. I like the mango Truly lemonades.
The mango's good. The strawberry takes me back to a really embarrassing story from Berlin, Germany. I'll leave that there. But the watermelon one, I'm not a big watermelon guy, but the watermelon lemonade one is good. This episode of On a Forklift Wrestling Podcast is brought to you by the fine folks at Truly. Sign up today at truly.com/Judy Bagwell. Enter the promo code Forklift for life. That's Forklift, the number 4, life, to get 0% off.
That's
at
truly.com.
This is a sponsored podcast, y'all.
They don't know it, but it is.
It's the true world order. Huh? See that?
That's actually kind of brilliant.
No, we were just talking about, I was about to say that Layla Hirsch and Chris Statlander had far and away the best women's match on the entire Revolution card.
See, I really liked the Jade Ty Conti match.
It was because they kissed. You pervert.
No, it's not. It's not. Look at both of those women and look at where they've come in such a short amount of time. So Jade was a virtual unknown a year ago.
Yep.
You knew she was athletic. You knew she was built like a star, but she had no in-ring experience. And Ty was an NXT cast-off. So the work and effort that both of those women have put into everything has made that great. I think those two are the most improved by far over the course of the last 18 months.
Which, yeah, I mean, that's great and all, but I'm still standing as a wrestling match. I thought that Chris Statlander and Layla Hirsch killed it. Not to say that Jade and Ty wasn't fantastic. For a 7-minute match, they killed it. They fucking killed it.
There's a problem, though. I want to follow your logic here, and I will say that I was a little bit surprised by how good the Layla Hirsch and Chris Statlander match was. But there's one part of it that I can't get over, and it's the lack of believability. Chris Statlander has such a solid base and a solid frame and is so much stronger that, like, the believability of Layla Hirsch being able to legitimately compete just isn't there. Like, if you put Layla Hirsch against Britt Baker, who's overrated and I can't believe is still champion, like, that's one thing. Like, that, there's a believability there. You put her against Thunder Rosa, also believable. But you put her against Statlander, like, I feel like Statlander is top 3 in the division, or should be top 3 in the division. And so, to me, there's not a believability there. Like, you look at it, and it's the ultimate big sister came back from college, and there's, like, the freshman in high school, or, like, the 8th grade little sister who's always felt slighted. Like, that's what this looks like to me. Never mind the fact that, like, they tried to set Layla Hirsch up to maybe be a babyface, and she's got the Russian colors on, and right now that's not the best look, so...
You see, I wanted Layla to win because I think she's a great wrestler. I think she's in the same ballpark as, like, a Chad Gable, where she's small, so that's going to, like, stunt her from what she's able to do, but she goes out there and she hangs with pretty much every single person that she's in the ring with. That's no slight on her whatsoever. She is a phenomenal worker. But I do agree with the whole, like, David and Goliath thing, which they do pretty much with Nyla Rose in every match. I think the only match that hasn't been David and Goliath with Nyla Rose was Chris Statlander.
Because I think comparatively say that, like, that Gable, this would almost be, it's not quite at Gable versus Brock in terms of, like, size differential. But it's a lot.
Fucking hum.
But to me, like, that's a closer, that to me is a closer comparison, right? Like, that's the lack of believability. The difference there, of course, is that they're both amateur wrestlers in that case. And, like, maybe, boy, I'll tell you what, we could talk ourselves into a Chad Gable Brock Lesnar match right
we
now.
just did. I don't give a fuck about Roman Brock.
Jesus. You know, like, boy.
I love his character right now. Chad Gable right now is fantastic. Thank you.
I really hope that Orton isn't injured so we get this 4-way tag match.
He's not. He was at MSG or MSG.
Thank God.
He wrestled.
This is my favorite Orton.
Cody was there too.
Well, yeah, but not for long.
A different Cody was there, not Cody Rhodes.
Dakota? Never mind.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah, I thought the Statlander and Layla Hirsch was cool. Layla Hirsch got the win when she hit her in the head with an extra turnbuckle, and then did a pretty damn good springboard moonsault for the win. I would say this is about a 3 out of 5 match.
So, the biggest problem with small people wrestling larger people is that everything is trying to be a replicant of a Rey Mysterio versus the Big Show or Rey Mysterio versus the Giant. And the one thing that Rey had on his side was a pre-established, like, pedigree of wrestling background from that point. And the smaller people now don't have that same luxury. And I think that's the biggest part, the lack of believability. Rey Mysterio, when he came out and he was the small guy doing all of that stuff, it was so unbelievable because there was nobody like that. And now there's a decent amount of people like that. Like, you could give me Layla Hirsch and Marco Stunt, and I would believe you that she beat the shit out of Marco Stunt.
Sure.
But, like, I get the point, and I'm not saying like if she would have won by like a roll up and grab of the tights and stuff like that, little smaller people doing stuff like that. Ray used to win that way, stuff like that. That's where the believability factor comes into it at. This one I can see because they tried to play on the emotional heartstrings of it. She did use a foreign object, if you will, to win the match. But that's the only time she's going to win. I can't see when you go to this match on Wednesday and you have Layla versus Rosa. Rosa's going to win the match. I mean, we already know that, but it's kind of that thing.
Which is okay because you need to have Rosa get a win back before she challenges for the belt again. Which we've already been over that match. I understand you're waiting till San Antonio to pull the trigger. We can actually rate that match right now. We've talked about that match enough. Britt Baker got the win after some bullshit shenanigans. After Rebel was on the apron, I counted twice. Could have been 3.
3 times.
3 fucking times. You get up on that. If you have a manager in a WWE game and they get on the apron once, that's a warning. They get on the apron the second time, they're gone. And your manager has to go to the back, and then you got to win by yourself. It's not like Baker is a competent enough wrestler to not need cronies for big time matches. 1.5 stars for the Thunder Britt match. It was shit. It was about the only bad thing on this card. I will get. Is
she competent enough? Here's like the unfortunate reality I think we're facing. If you look at her last, like, let's say 5 matches, many of which have been as champion. How many of those matches have you walked away coming from impressed? Because it hasn't happened, right? Like
the Baker Statlander match.
Statlander kind of carried her to it, right?
Yep, like, and you know what? Ty Conti was the better wrestler between Britt and Ty at the full.
And that's the problem. Like, and we'll get to this, but like Jade Cargill started off as super green. She's still green, but you see this exponential growth every time she's out there. She's getting that much better every time. Mm-hmm. And apparently is working with Bryan Danielson, and that's obviously going to help. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's another level to, like, why you bring a guy like that in, right? Britt Baker's not getting that much better. Is she getting better? Yes. But not that kind of exponential growth you have, or that you need. And she also didn't start at a level where you could deal with, like, let's say a 15% improvement every time. Like, if Cargill's getting better, 33% better every time, right, to get to whatever her ceiling is ultimately going to be, fine. If Baker's only doing, like, 12% growth, and she's not fighting that much on your regular TV programming, and she's not getting those reps, because she sure as shit isn't going on Dark, right? She's not on Dark Elevation, so, like...
She's not taking indie shows, stuff like that.
Yeah, and so, like, if that's the case, like, she's just getting passed by. And, like, the gimmick is great, and it's gotten over with the crowd, but, like, at some point, the crowd is really going to start to turn on her, if they already haven't, because you're not turning on the character, you're turning on the shenanigans every time. Mm-hmm. And it's so tired at this point. And it's like, all right, well, what's the next thing? Jamie Hayter's going to turn on her. So you have MJF and Wardlow, but in female...
Nowhere near as good.
But it's nowhere near as good, and there's not a way to build this to be nearly as good because Baker is not as good as MJF is, right? So
no, and at least with the MJF Wardlow turn, MJF is a damn good wrestler, and Wardlow has gotten a lot better. Jamie Hayter is a better wrestler than Britt Baker. From her day, just all the stardom that I've watched that she was involved in, she is a better wrestler than Britt Baker. Britt, on the other hand, has the character work that Jamie doesn't have, and that's what carried her. Her being it's so bad that she would have made a better champion when she was injured and doing all that character work than she does being in the ring. Her where she thrives is on the character work, and they've pulled so much of that away.
Yeah. No, but her character work is great. Like every single time she talks, she's great. But it's just that. Even Roman wins matches without cronies. Sure, do the Usos get involved and fucking Paul Heyman get involved every once in a while? Of course, but it's not every goddamn match. Every TV match, every pay-per-view match. It's going right to what you and I have said, Russ. This is going to be a St. Patrick's Day slam inside of a steel cage.
Kind of feels like it.
Where Rosa will win the title in her hometown.
Yeah, and you know what? The problem is that like I feel like that kind of stooges off the finish, which makes it kind of like lessens it for Rosa, right? Like it felt like last night was supposed to be the moment that Rosa wins. And so like kudos to them for kind of swerving the audience. They don't do it much, but like kudos to them because that kind of went against I think what people expected. But I'm not the biggest fan of a title change in a hometown. A regular straight up win, like when Wardlow won at home, like great, that's awesome, good for you.
Hmm.
But you know, this is kind of giving away the ending, unless we're missing something. But here's a bigger issue: that match goes sideways because of all the shenanigans, right? Who had just aligned herself with Thunder Rosa
Yeah, where
as
was
a
Martinez?
mutual enemy who could have been out there to one, get rid of Rebel, and two, to effectively kind of, I don't know, dissuade Jamie Hayter from getting involved. It's Mercedes Martinez. She's nowhere to be found. On a show where 85,000 people showed up, right? Where you're like trying to get people action, you're trying to get people involved in the show. Mercedes Martinez's absence, unless it was like COVID related or something, made no sense. It was
And
as
even
if they just kind of plucked the last 2 weeks of character work and that like little, secondary arc, they just kind of threw it out. It doesn't make any sense.
it also goes back down to that thing: is every babyface in the locker room so unlikable that no one is willing to help them? Like fucking Ruby Soho has aligned herself with Thunder Rosa in the past. Same with Chris Statlander. Same with Mercedes Martinez. There's not one of them women who want to come out there and help someone out to get the belt off Baker to have fair challenges for the title again. No, no, it's because the
That's a
faces
fair
are dumbasses.
Yes.
Yes,
Traditionally, they are, though.
yeah. But let's move on to another positive note on the pre-show, and that was the presentation of Hook. Now, what do I give the Hook match before we even talk about it? It's 5 out of 5. Because anytime Hook is on TV, it's perfect. He is the best well-built character that AEW have been doing. Like, as from a starting out in AEW talent, Hook is money. Hook is going to win that TNT title here in about a year and hold that bitch forever until someone comes along and beats him, and then that person will become established. Someone like a Lee Moriarty or some shit. Real
Ethan,
talk.
Can you
the
talk?
Hook,
Can you
the
talk
Hook,
some sense to him?
the Hook QT Marshall match was a lot of fun. Hook got his offense in. The
He's
crowd
slowly
fucking
doing it
loves
to
him.
himself.
Nah, fuck
He
it.
is.
The
He's
crowd
realizing
loves
it. He's
The
realizing
crowd loves Hook. I love Hook.
he's got the gimmick going, and he's just really drilled down into it. But he's starting to drown in that sea
No,
of
I
BS
loved
he
it.
just spewed.
I loved it. It's what I want from a Hook match right now. It's the same thing what I want from a Wardlow match. I want him to come out there, get some good offense in, and win.
Okay, Ethan, talk some sense.
You don't like Hook?
So it was it was a good showing for a opening card. You want to bring eyes to a talent who generally only wrestles on Rampage. So you want to bring eyes to talent, maybe some people that don't generally watch stuff, guys that only watch pay-per-views, because they're out there. There are people that only watch pay-per-views. I only
Yes.
watch WWE pay-per-views. It is what it
100%.
is.
I agree.
So you bring eyes to it, and you use an enhancement talent that doesn't matter if they lose. Plus, the nice thing is there's a body type difference between Hook and QT, and so you make Hook seem a little more credible. He's not going out there and beating up one of the private party. He's not beating up Dante Martin, something. Not that he would beat up Dante Martin, just because the character's a little more protected. But it gives some validity to it. Plus, it's one of his trainers, so you know the guy's actually going to put on a decent match with him. It protects the character of Hook. It was a good little exhibition for everything. I think that's where it dies out at. I don't think it's not a match that I'm going to give a star rating to. I'm not going to give any kind of
No,
5
the
out
whole
of 5.
5 out of 5 thing is a
It's-
joke.
It just wasn't.
There
what
he
it
goes.
was.
It's a 2-star match that was expedited by the fact that Hook is one of the best built characters in AEW right now.
Yeah, so like here's I think like the fairest way to say it. QT Marshall does not move the needle, right? Right.
No.
But we know if you're an AEW fan, you know the work that QT Marshall did with this company through the pandemic. And you know that he was set across Cody with the Nightmare Factory and the not Nightmare Factory, right? And so to that end, maybe the Cody rub was actually a little bit helpful, but what you learn from that whole thing is QT is actually one of the coaches. And because you've built so much of the story around, he was my student, he was my student, he was my student, you do inherently like add a little bit more credibility to QT because you see how good Hook is. Hook didn't just like magically become good. Like conceptually you go, all right, like this guy trained him. QT has done a lot on his body, right? Like he looks like a much more legitimate wrestler than he did a year and a half ago. And so you look at it and you go, all right, like there's believability. I'm big into believability. I could look at this and say, this guy, even if he's not as good as Hook is now, he trained him. He's going to know a lot of the ins and outs of what to expect from Hook and how to neutralize and things to get in his head. And so, like, I saw some people complaining online that they felt like it was too competitive of a match. And I disagree. I think it was actually a good thing to show, like, Hook needs the experience of fighting from underneath and from having to come back from adversity. And so, like, I thought it was a really good match.
And who wouldn't know? And who wouldn't know Hook's moveset better than his coach?
Exactly.
Really? So that was the perfect
like,
person to get some offense in on Hook because he's trained Hook. He knows what Hook's about. He knows what Hook's going to do. So he was prepared. And then they kept on going back to the veteran offense from QT, which, yes, QT is a veteran. He might be a slimy heel that no one likes, but everyone needs to realize he can fucking hang in the ring. He's not bad. He's good. He's good enough to be a coach.
Is this a match that could have happened on Dynamite? It is. Like, could it have happened on Dynamite leading into Revolution? I think it could have. At some point, I would like to talk about the absolute cluster F that Dynamite and Rampage ended up being, if you look at it from the macro view of those 2 days. But, like, this could have just as easily been a really solid Dynamite match where you've done a decent job of building a story, and you probably don't wear the crowd out as much in that 5-hour epic that this ended up being. You probably didn't need this match on the buy-in. Though I do agree, there is value for the people who bought the pay-per-view who don't watch every week and certainly don't watch Rampage. It is good to get Hook exposure. I just think that you could have gotten Hook a lot of exposure just doing it on Dynamite instead of Rampage.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, Hook's got his 5 wins in. He had his 5 wins. He needed something. So a pay-per-view buy-in match was like 5 minutes. Do I believe they needed 3 matches on the buy-in? No. I think if you were going to get rid of a match, Hook and QT could have gone on Rampage last week. I do think... You know what? Never mind. I'm not going to say that now. But yeah.
What were you going to say? Say it.
No, I was going to say the triple threat TNT title match should have been on the pay-per-view.
I agree.
But after seeing everything with Sting and the 6-man tag and how that blew my expectations away, I'm just like, all right, you get a pass this time. But stop not having the TNT title on pay-per-views, because this is the second pay-per-view I can recall that it's not on. Because last pay-per-view, what was it, Full Gear? Yeah. Sammy was in that 10-man tag, and he was the champion, so it wasn't defended. So this is the second pay-per-view in a row that the TNT title hasn't been defended.
So Russ said something about body types, about QT working on his, and that's actually going to be a running theme with the next 2 matches that we talk about, because following this match, we had the trios match that was on the buy-in. And Eric Redbeard looks so fucking credible. Like, he just looks like a monster now. It used to be he was just a big guy with a beard, and he looked kind of just menacing. He just looked menacing. Now he actually is menacing. I think that there's a big difference between that. It's not just the tattoos. It's the man is actually in better shape than he was, and I think that speaks a lot to what goes on when these guys are on the road. Back when he was wrestling for WWE, these guys are on the road 5 to 6 days a week doing house shows and all kinds of stuff, and it takes a toll on your body, and you're unable to make yourself look that good. So he comes out, which is fantastic to see him. I'm glad he's back on TV. I'm glad he's doing something. He doesn't need to be a featured guy. And if this is the last time we see him for a couple of months, it is what it is. But I was a big fan of it, and I'm sure both of you guys have stuff to talk about this one.
For me, it was straight down to that. Fucking, he looked great. I was super happy to see him. He looked like he was having fun, which is all I ever want to see my wrestlers do, is having a good time. The 6-man tag, if it was 3 minutes shorter, it would have been the perfect PWG 6-man tag, because that shit was great. I do think the right man got pinned. I think they're building towards Rey Fenix coming back. but a really good showing for Redbeard, Murphy, and King. All three of them. Phenomenal outings for him. When you're overshadowing Pac in a match, Buddy Murphy and Pac in a 60-minute Iron Man match, that's the match I want to see right now.
See, there's one issue that this has run into, and I like it, and conceptually I think a lot of it's good. There's one weird story thing here that I feel like came out of nowhere and is misguided. It was on was it Rampage is when they announced Redbeard, and Penta says, an arm for an arm. And it's like, well, Malachi didn't break Rey Fenix's arm. Like, that was Luchasaurus. Like, that's who your qualm is with. I don't understand why we, like, tried to just whitewash that bit of history and try to pin that on the House of Black. Kind of weird and dumb. The issue here is Malachi has lost a lot. Malachi's lost a lot of steam. Like, he looked as though he was heading towards that world title picture. And maybe that was the goal, was to kind of slow that train down a little bit. Or to, like, slow him down from even, like, a TBS title run. When you put him next to Brody King, he looks small. Because of course he does. Mm-hmm. And then you bring Buddy in. What did I say to you guys in that chat? He's a stud. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, Buddy looks like $3 million. Buddy also looks like the poster child for, like, you know, the Royd era. But, like, Buddy looks great. And so Malachi doesn't look good comparatively. He doesn't look like Adam Cole. All right, let's at least be fair. Malachi doesn't look like he's, you know, avoided the gym.
Hold on a second. Right before the main event started, we were sitting in the living room watching the pay-per-view. He was like, I'm just waiting for the Russ, Adam Cole needs to go to the gym message to come through. So when you didn't send it, I was just like, do you guys think Adam Cole needs to go to the gym?
Oh, man, that's what I was waiting for it, but
it was a great six-man. It was a great
No,
six-man.
it was very good. It was very good. It was kind of, there were sloppy moments, and like there were moments where you're like, this I think again comes back to like the card is too long. You're trying to slam so many matches in, one because you only have 4 pay-per-views a year, and I think 2 because you've done a bad job balancing Dynamite and Rampage. Like, this again could have been a Dynamite episode. This could have been like a main event of a Dynamite that led into Revolution. This could have been a 30-minute match that is the main event of Rampage leading into a pay-per-view. Or it could have been on the pay-per-view card itself. But I don't know. I get again. You're trying to convince those last-minute people who are watching it for free on YouTube or free on Bleacher Report or whatever, and you're trying to convince them to buy the pay-per-view, and this is a really good way to do it. And there's a lot to see here, and there's a lot to like. But man, I don't know. It was a lot.
Spend your money, watch our show.
It was definitely the match that needed a main event the show. I mean, needed a main event the buy-in. A 4 out of 5 match gets you really hyped for the pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. Where House of Black got the win when they sprayed black mist into Redbeard's face.
Redbeard.
Yep. But a really, really nice showing for Redbeard. If that's his one and done with AEW. Sorry,
God, I love those burgers.
Yeah, I'll take a big Papa burger and some cheese curds and a large root beer.
Do you have A&W by you?
Hell yeah,
Fuck yeah, we do.
I'm going to come visit you guys. Because the closest one I think I have is like in my hometown. Like an hour and a half away from
June
here.
29th.
I can tell you where 3 of them are off the top of my head.
Literally, the city I work in has 3 restaurants to eat at. There's Subway, there's McDonald's, and then there's an A&W that is only open in the spring and summer.
All right, so I'm gonna.
I can tell you where 4 are at. I'm literally in the center of 4 of them. There's one in Belleville. There's one on
Garden City.
Of course, there's one in Garden City, and there's one on Telegraph.
There used to be one in Westland Mall.
Smack dab. There was. That was actually a really good one.
Hey Siri, find A&W near me. I need to know.
One option I found is S&W.
Nope, I don't know what that is. That's not what I'm looking for.
That's the adult bookstore I go to get my novellas.
I've learned one thing in switching from an Android phone to Siri, like into an iPhone. Siri is not as good. No offense, Siri. Siri is not as good as Google. Like, not even close. No. I said something like, hey, when do the Sixers play? And Siri's like, the 76ers are an NBA team. I'm like, that's not what I asked for.
I got the new S22 Ultra.
How is it?
Fucking great. I love it. I'm super happy. We're getting it for Ethan.
Yeah, I got my buyout price, so I need to wait until I get paid next time.
Okay, cool.
That reminds us that this episode is also brought to you by the fine folks at Samsung. Of course, go to samsung.com/on-a-forklift and enter promo code FORKU.
They're actually going to charge you
0%
more.
off.
They charge you 10% more, but they'll know you've been buying from us.
That's right.
So after that, we kicked into the main card, which Ethan and I were screaming at each other in the living room. I said Kingston and Jericho was going to open. He said it was going to be the ladder match. Kingston and Jericho open, and what a great fucking opener. In my opinion, Jericho's best match in AEW. I can't think of a better one. That was fan-fucking-tastic. The fucking exploder suplex to start the match, dropping Jericho right on the back of his head, which apparently was deliberate.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, like they set that up for the match to start like that.
Okay. Because that was scary. That was scary.
There was a
for
lot of
second.
scary moments on this show, but lucky for us, only one injury occurred on the show. We'll get to that when we get to the ladder match.
Well, and Jericho, once again, following with the body trend, Jericho did the work, put in the effort, and albeit he's north of 50, did his absolute best to get into much better shape than he did when he came back from the Fozzy tour. So props to him on that for actually attempting.
And Eddie
He even,
Kingston.
he even foreshadowed the Darby Allin miss on the coffin drop by missing the lion salt.
Yeah,
Getting him
driving
with the,
his
with
fucking
the
knee.
with the shins. The shins, yeah.
Nope, he
Back
got
of
his
the-
knee right into. You saw how Eddie
wasn't he?
Kingston's eye was swollen?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was from that?
that was from the knee. He
Oh.
posted on Instagram about it. He was like, "Yo, dogs, nothing over here hurts, nothing over here, but my eye right here, it fucking sucks."
You sure it wasn't the back of the shins?
That was you. You're back of the shins, man. I'm Johnny Shitknuckles. But anyways, it was fantastic. The whole selling that Kingston couldn't win the big one, Jericho getting too cocky and going for the Judas effect, missing, getting hit with 2 spinning back fist and then putting a stretch. I can't remember what it is. It's an All Japan shout out, but the stretch stretch plum. Thank you. The stretch plum hit him with the stretch plum and Jericho tapped. And my favorite thing about the match was Eddie after just going, "I won? Did I win? Did I fucking win?" The initial time he hit the back fist and he only got the 2 count, I thought they're gonna give it to Jericho because he got in Aubrey's face. He was like, "Please tell me that was 3. Like, are you fucking sure that wasn't 3?" I thought Jericho was gonna win. That second code breaker he hit, if you fucking sold me a ticket.
That was a fun match.
4.5 stars. 4.5 stars.
Listen, partner. It was a good one, partner. I love when he says partner.
Partner.
Oh my god. Partner.
The nice thing was you took it back to, so there's so much. That is the one thing we've talked about before. AEW has such this wide ranging styles that go on in their matches. Mm-hmm. Match to match, you don't know what you're getting. You're going to get the high flying. You're going to get the technical. You're going to get the traditional. There's always something for somebody. And this match was for guys like my dad, guys that grew up watching Arn Anderson, Tully, Stan Hansen, stuff like that. They went out and they just hit each other. Mm-hmm. And so I like, part of what I like about Eddie is that he's very forward. I know I'm going to get beat up, but I'm going to attempt to take more damage than you can take. Or I'm going to, you know what I mean?
It was a Japanese strong style match. We got 2 of those on this show. We got 2 Japanese strong style matches on one card, and it was fucking awesome.
That's the thing. If somebody says to you, "I don't like AEW," and you show them a pay-per-view like this, and they still walk away saying, "I didn't like anything on that card," then you look at that person and you say, "You don't like professional wrestling." No. And that's okay, but don't say that you do, because they have virtually every style that you could possibly want covered in a 3.5-hour card, right? Like the only thing that you didn't see on this show was a death match, but you could argue that the brutality of a death match was in at least one of the matches. You could argue maybe even 2 of them, right? Like the sheer brutality of the dog collar match, even the brutality of the Mox match. Like there was an element of that, and hell, there was that strong style realism to what Jericho and Kingston brought to the table. It was a good match. There's one problem though. Eddie's got to keep that leotard up.
No, man, I love it. He looks like a dude who's just there to fight. I love his body style with his character.
It's okay till the jiggle starts. When you start having like the 4th of July jello kind of rolling out over the waistband, then I'm kind of like, it's fun. Listen, we can go to like just above the navel, right? There we're good. You get to the belly button, we're getting a little bit iffy. When that rolled down and it fell out, don't get me wrong. I am not body shaming. I'm all about the dad bod. You have at it, fella. But when Jericho goes out and loses like what, 25 pounds, 30 pounds in a month and a half, like, yeah. I mean, if Jericho were like 3 months ago, Jericho, you wouldn't have noticed as much. But Jericho looked, pretty damn svelte, if I might say so myself.
I'm waiting to hear this. Where you at, partner? Fucking Russ, you gotta go.
Yeah, I know.
This was like
he's at my window.
this was like the fucking two dads that finally fought because their kids said, "My dad can beat up your dad." That's what this fight felt like to me. It was a great match, a great way to kick off the card. And I said to Ethan, I feel bad for anyone that's got to follow that. And we go right into a fucking luchador style 3-way tag match, which told a great story because most of the time with triple threats, normal triple threats, it's two heels beating up a babyface, the babyface coming back and winning. It's a much better dynamic when it's two teams beating the shit out of one team and them coming back and getting the win. The miscommunication between the Bucks and Red Dragon. The fucking Jungle Boy's a stud. That fucking German suplex off the top. What was it? A Frankensteiner off the top into a German suplex. Holy shit. The whole Luchasaurus bit where he was going to run and dive and everyone run to the other side and Jungle Boy just jumps over and lands on everyone. Kyle O'Reilly selling. Fucking Bobby Fish does not get enough credit for having some of the best facial expressions of a slimy fucking heel. And the Young Bucks are just... The Young Bucks continue to prove they're consensually the best fucking tag team in the world. I don't think there's anyone who doubts it anymore. In terms of like long term and putting on consistently good matches, there's no one better than the Bucks. You can put them in there with anyone, and it's gonna be a fucking 4.5-star classic. FTR is a better tag team. Don't get me wrong.
I was gonna say that's where I was going.
That's what I'm looking for.
But the Young Bucks consistently have the best matches.
Here, I'll give you this. The Young Bucks are a more adaptable tag team.
Yes.
FTR is a better tag team. But the Young Bucks can put on a great match with FTR and also put on a great match with the Lucha Brothers. FTR cannot put together a great match with the Lucha Brothers. That dynamic does not work. FTR with pretty much anybody else is great. That's one tag team that I just always felt very underwhelmed. Whereas like Young Bucks, I think they pull it off better there.
They can't.
Ethan,
FTR can't do.
Were you surprised that Jurassic Express walked away with the win? Like, are you surprised that there was no chicanery?
No, because that was part of what we talked about. Did I call that?
No.
What?
Oh wait, you may have. I haven't re-listened.
Anyway, so no, I actually wasn't that surprised that they walked away with the win. Not that I'm saying
because I said Red Dragon.
Oh yeah, well, I'm not surprised that they walked away with the win. I thought if anybody was going to, one thing I didn't think if they lost the title, I did not think that Jurassic Express was going to take the pin. I didn't think that was going to happen. Because it plays into the story of, oh, well, Kyle pinned Nick or Matt or whoever it was if they won. So I think it got to a point, though, when the Bucks came out for the match on Friday. At that point, I was like, well, they were just in the last match. So you basically had every tag team wrestle 2 matches to figure out who got in at that. You could have essentially just had one match, and the remaining 2 members were the 2 teams that got into it. So once you started having that second tag team turmoil or whatever the fuck you want to call it, that happened. I was like, they're gonna sabotage each other to the extent that this isn't gonna work. So that's when I started to feel that way. I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that right there at the end, I thought the Bucks were gonna win it. I thought it was gonna happen. Yeah, I mean, it was a fun match. It was a good time. I think the right team won after watching the match. I think the right team won. because I think they're going to be the right team to lose the titles, if that makes sense. I don't think it does anything for those titles if Red Dragon gets them and then almost immediately loses them in a feud to the Bucks, because that's what I feel would happen, and vice versa. It doesn't mean anything to the Bucks to win another title. It does nothing for them.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I wouldn't put the belts on either the Bucks or Red Dragon at this point, because we're essentially building up to Kenny Omega returning and going into this trios feud. Now, personally, if you want my pick for who should take the belts off Jurassic Express, it's pure and simple. It's Santana and Ortiz. That's the team to do it. Santana and Ortiz, like, there's not many teams that need the belts. The Young Bucks don't need the belts. Red Dragon don't need the belts. The fucking Lucha Bros, FTR, none of them need the belts. They can all do shit outside of the belts. But Santana and Ortiz having feuds with all of them while consistently defending the titles would... I think that Jurassic Express is doing great with what they have given for them. This was a great showing for them. This definitely established them as a team that is champions. The other tag team matches they have, I wouldn't say. Them beating the Ass Boys and Private Party and the Acclaim doesn't really do much for me. But them beating Red Dragon and the Lucha Bros, Red Dragon and the Young Bucks, that establishes them as the best team. And now I want to see Santana and Ortiz take the belts off the best team.
See, we have two problems though. See, Santana and Ortiz. This is where like some of the storytelling bothers me, right? Like we go through this whole thing about Kingston and Jericho. We're using Santana and Ortiz as kind of like this ancillary thing that's related, right? Like we're gonna go off and we're gonna pursue this on our own, and we're gonna get it done. And then we have that weird thing where like they fist bump Jericho because they couldn't get it done themselves, like that whole thing, which I didn't like. And kind of adds ambiguity to that. Makes you think that the Kingston Jericho thing's going to keep going, which I also don't like. I'm not impressed by Jurassic Express as tag team champions. I think they've had good matches. I feel the same way about them that I do about Hangman Page as champion. The matches are good. The matches are even really good. Like, I can't look at one of the Jurassic Express matches and say, that sucked. Nor can I look at a Hangman Page match as a title defense and say, that sucked. It didn't. They're all good. But they don't do enough work on the mic for it to actually be meaningful. They don't make you believe in their character as a champion. Like, Hangman still feels very much like a guy who doesn't really believe in himself as champion. We can get there at some point. But, like, Jurassic Express doesn't have it. Because why? Christian Cage is the mouthpiece. Jungle Boy kind of says some stuff, kind of, like, tries to do the grimacing look. And Luchasaurus just goes, ah! And you're just like, well, all right, great. But, like, there are so many tag teams that can work the mic and get the job done in the ring. And, like, to me, this was a missed opportunity on two levels. One, I think that this should have just been it should have just been Jurassic Express against Santana and Ortiz on the pay-per-view. Have it heads up, like head-to-head. We didn't need the three-way match. We just didn't. That could have told a good story. That could have set up, that tag team having the belts. Meanwhile, you've got the Kingston and Jericho thing, and it's like, oh, who are these tag team champions going to align themselves with? Like, there's a story there that you don't have now, unless you're going to put Kingston and Santana and Ortiz into this trios thing. So it's not just the Bucks and Omega, against the undisputed originals or whatever the hell they're calling themselves. I thought that, like, what was going to happen was similar to what happened that got Red Dragon into the dance in the first place. I thought we were going to see, like, the Young Bucks pull off a Meltzer driver and then Red Dragon throw the Bucks out and take the pin. And that was just going to be, like, a further escalation. But the point of the trios thing and the fact that, like, the trios belts are looming out there, and Tony Khan himself said that, like, candidly, he thinks that the trios belts are going to be a thing when Omega's back. Well, I mean, that kind of tells you everything you need to know. I think it kind of cheapens things, and I don't... I guess the only good thing here is that, like, Jurassic Express loses to, whether it's FTR or to Santana and Ortiz. I think it ultimately matters. I think you can get the belts off these guys. You can say, hey, you had a nice run there. You had a couple impressive victories. Nice job. Keep building. Keep getting Jungle Boy reps. Keep letting Luchasaurus, botch things, but also have some entertaining spots, and, like, just go from there. It was good. It was good. There's not a long-term play here, right? Like, Jurassic Express isn't going to hold the belts for 6 months, nor should they.
They have a shelf life, too, as a team. Because it's going to come to a point where Jungle Boy's going to get the exposure that he needs to be a singles guy. Because let's be honest, he does the majority of the work in the matches. Luchasaurus is a hot tag guy. Jungle Boy does 80% of the work in the matches, I would say. And it's going to get to a point where you have the natural character development where people are going to recognize and see he does what he can do. He's going to move on. Now, does he become a Matt Hardy or does he become a Jeff Hardy? Does he become the guy who, and I don't mean lifestyle-wise, but does he become the guy that ascends to a higher plane, or does he become the guy that's just stuck in the middle card forever? That's yet to be seen.
Well, it's hard to compare him, right? Like, if you compare him to the other pillars, right? Like, who's the most likely guy to win a world title? It's MJF. And then who's the second most likely?
Sammy.
Yeah. And then the third most likely?
Darby.
Probably Darby. So if you're still at number 4, which, by the way, is not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all. But if you're still number 4, then at some point, I think you need to prove that you're a singles guy. The thing that obviously makes the most sense is that, like, after they drop the belts, they get involved in the trios thing as well with Christian Cage. And at some point, whether it's because they get the trios titles or something happens that there's a Christian versus Jungle Boy thing, that to me within the next 18 months has to happen. And that might even be too far out. But Christian versus Jungle Boy, at least one match, maybe a trilogy of matches, where like you're getting that kid reps with people who are that next level worker. In the same way that we kind of lauded the QT Marshall versus Hook dynamic, you have an escalated version of that, right? You have an elevated version of that because Jungle Boy is better than Hook right now, is more experienced, is more polished, and Christian Cage is better, obviously, than QT Marshall. So you roll with that, and that establishes Jungle Boy as a potential single star. And then maybe he goes down that TNT title path. He doesn't belong in the world title picture anytime soon. But eventually, why not?
But what have we talked about those guys, those 3 pillars? First off, MJF best on the mic. He's the best on the mic in the company, personal opinion. He is. So he's got the mouthpiece. Sammy can also talk. And then you've got Darby, who can talk when he needs to in very small spurts, but he's very effective when he does. And that's where you leave Jungle Boy at.
Yeah, like I said, very, very good tag match. A definite any match so far you could pick for match of the night. And then we go into the next match, which is the Face of the Revolution ladder match, which had Keith Lee, Powerhouse Hobbs, Wardlow, Orange Cassidy, Ricky Starks, and Christian in it, which I thought was a serviceable ladder match to follow the 2 matches that had. A lot of people were saying they were expecting a North American title ladder match. I didn't think so. I thought this was a nice, fun, Money in the Bank style ladder match where you had 3 nice big men in there who could do the big spots, who could be anchors for the little guys to do really cool spots, like Orange Cassidy skinning the calf on a ladder to almost stand on a ladder that I think Keith Lee and Wardlow were holding up. That was cool. The only injury to come out of this pay-per-view, though, was Orange Cassidy getting fucking yeeted 20 feet outside above Starks and Christian's heads and him not fully getting caught. So Orange Cassidy's probably going to be out for a while, probably concussion protocols. He probably got a concussion from that or a shoulder injury. I don't want to speculate too much on it, but that's what it looked like for me. You had the big table spot with Keith Lee and Powerhouse going through.
Is Starks okay?
Starks is okay.
Okay. That was scary.
Yeah, Starks got his hands behind his head.
Spot.
Starks got his hand behind his head. He confirmed that he was okay.
Good.
Yeah. It does. We had messaged a lot about this match. All of us. Well, Clinton and I had talked. We had messaged Russ. They utilized everybody's skill set to the best of their advantage in this match. You did really have one guy out who was actually the guy who is known for ladder matches. He felt like the one piece that didn't really fit. I do feel like on the inside, though, he was directing a lot of it. I feel like he was talking to guys and helping direct the match, and that's why Christian Cage was in there. Otherwise, the big guys did the big guy stuff, the little guys did the little guy stuff, and in my opinion, the right guy won.
Yeah, Wardlow absolutely needed to win. He won. I thought Keith Lee was going to, but I think they made the right call having Wardlow win, especially with everything that came on later in the night. Just a really, really good spot fest for a ladder match. And you never get to see big, beefy men doing ladder spots. But Powerhouse Hobbs putting that ladder up in the corner and then doing a stalling suplex off of it was great. Keith Lee and Powerhouse holding that ladder up for Orange Cassidy to stand on was great. I didn't like the big brawl in the middle of the match. No. That's just me, because then it was just those three leaving the three skinny guys to fight in the ring which then essentially turns it into a triple threat, because they were away from that ring for like 8 minutes. It felt like.
Yeah, the one positive that comes out of this match, and this is where we like to run parallel storylines, is Keith Lee didn't need to win that match, because now Keith Lee gets to be Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa loses in the TBS title tournament, and then is able to go and challenge Britt Baker. Keith Lee loses this match. He's now able to enter the world title picture. It never made sense. This is my issue, I guess, with his debut and the way that they debuted him. It never, to me, made sense to put him in the TBS or in the TNT title picture, because that's not what he should be aspiring to, and that's not what you should be signing him to chase. He should be going after the world title. Wardlow, on the other hand, makes far more sense as a guy chasing the TNT title. Can we talk about the fact that there's a potential here? Because Sammy's got to be done with this title soon. Can we talk about the potential of Wardlow winning the TNT title? And like after 2 or 3 defenses, who returns? Miro.
Give me that in my fucking veins. That'd be fucking great. No, honestly, I think Sammy's losing it Wednesday. I think he's gonna lose to Scorpio. I think he's gonna lose to Scorpio, and Scorpio is gonna be a transitional champion. Yeah. I don't think they want Wardlow to take that belt off of Sammy, but I know they want that belt on Wardlow immediately, because it's gonna further the MJF story. Which
you also have to like do something to appease the guy, right? Like, it's not as if there's a threat that he's going to leave to WWE. We don't know when his contract's up, but like, it makes sense now. He's polished enough. He's got the Goldberg thing going right now with the Powerbomb Symphony. You ride that. You ride that guy for a while.
You ride it as well as you can and get the most out of it. And right now, the most they're going to get out of it is a really, really good turn on MJF, which we saw later in the night. And it's like that pop was fucking massive. They're building up Wardlow so well. They're giving him TV exposure every single week. They're giving him squash matches just to show how fucking dominant he is. The one on Cesar Bernoni was great. And by the way, shout out to
the Camarado one was good too.
It was.
That was also another good.
But speaking of hoss fights that are like, because we don't ever talk about Rampage on here, JD Drake and Keith Lee was a fun hoss fight, and JD Drake deserves a lot more TV time than he gets. I'm a big fan of JD Drake.
So I think one of the other things that helped Wardlow in this match is cringy as it was that they left the ring and you left all the smaller guys in the ring to fight. Him taking out both of the larger competitors, who are both arguably larger than Wardlow himself, adds to some credibility that he hasn't had by having these squash matches. The Cesar Bononi one was standing because he was large. Nick Camarado's a big dude too, but he's not quite as big as Wardlow. Keith Lee's name carries a presence behind it. And to an extent, Powerhouse Hobbs does as well, because he's tied himself in with Taz, and Taz's name, while it doesn't carry as much weight as it used to, it still does. So there's a level of stuff that comes with that, and that's about the only thing that Wardlow has been missing. The dude's got the look, the dude has the moves, the dude has the entrance music, he's got the crowd behind him, and just his body language carries him as somebody who's much farther progressed in his career than year-wise he has, than the time that he spent in the system.
It's that argument of exponential growth again, similar to Jade, right? Like, Wardlow as an in-ring competitor has gotten far better. And here's the thing that he doesn't get enough credit for, and it's something that's really worth talking about, is that Wardlow on the mic hasn't gotten a ton of exposure. He's gotten better. He's certainly a more competent on-mic guy. But his facial expressions tell the story, right? We'll get to that later. With the Punk turn, right? But the guy can tell a story now, not only in ring, being imposing, being a freight train, but man, like the guy, without saying a word, gives you everything you need to progress a storyline, and that's not something we could have said about him 6 months ago. So kudos to him.
He's
Seriously.
great. He's,
You guys know I've been a big Wardlow guy for a while now.
that's the one thing you and I
Long time.
agree on every single week is that we love Wardlow. We don't
So-
we kind of fucking disagree on a lot when it comes to wrestling, but the one thing we love
What do
is
we
Wardlow.
disagree on?
Bro, I see your
Yeah.
post on Facebook. We don't. I mean, on fucking Twitter, we don't agree on
What
everything.
What have we not agree? Whoa.
Nothing from the pay per view, and nothing that I can call off the top of my head. But I've seen some of your posts where I'm just like, I disagree.
Let's go. Hold on a second. Whoa.
I'm not going through
Ethan,
your full
referee
Twitter
this.
feed.
Referee this for a second. What did I say that was so egregiously offensive to you?
God,
I
you
want to
wanna
know.
get
Clean fat. Let's get it out.
Don't you dare! Oh, Judge Mills Lane's here.
Lane, no,
Don't
yeah.
don't
Yeah.
act like you don't know what you're talking. No. There's
I do
something-
know what I'm
there's
talking
some-
about. I've
something
seen it.
stuck in your crawl. What's wrong? What did I say to upset you? What wrestling
let's
take
see
could I
here.
possibly have
Okay.
had? My wrestling takes are right. I don't know how you could like.
I'm sorry. I am supposed to be an impartial judge here to this.
I didn't
Yep.
say Brandy Rhodes deserves to be like the next women's champion. Like what?
No, we agree on that too. We agree on Brandy. You know what? I'll say this: because I don't find anything from the past week, so we must have agreed on a lot this week. Because, nope, I don't think Andrade should have won.
Oh, Andrade absolutely should have won.
No,
Because, yes, he should have. Because that could have led to a lot more intrigue in this match, in the 6-man match. Because Andrade won, you need to put a belt on. You need to. Because at this point, you're consistently, like, there is a legitimate concern that he is in a worse place on this card than he was with WWE. He can't continue to be a guy that loses to smaller guys. And the Sammy Darby thing, you could have just done a very easy thing. Darby hits a coffin drop. Andrade comes in, throws Darby out because he's twice his size, and he picks up the win. It doesn't even matter if it's like a good, clean win. To me, Andrade needs to have some kind of a belt on him. And it's especially going to help to insulate him a bit when inevitably Jeff Hardy comes into the promotion and tries to like
This
break Matt
Wednesday.
Hardy free. Yeah, like Andrade should have won that match. And it was a hell of a match. It was a great 3-way match on
probably the
Rampage.
best match they've ever had on Rampage, to be honest.
I think so, yeah. But I think
Yeah.
Andrade needs a belt because
But it also
otherwise,
shows
like,
that Darby Allin's the dumbest person in wrestling. Because why don't you just fucking pin Andrade after the GTH, which no one has kicked out of yet?
Yep.
So no, but you got to go for your coffin drop, which gave Sammy the ability to win. I thought Darby was dumb in that aspect.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm right again. What was
No,
the next
still
match on
Sammy
the card?
Next match on the card was Jade versus Ty Conti.
Who have I been bigger on than Wardlow? The only person maybe is the biggest star potential in the company. The one guy that the one person that Vince McMahon would do the Stacy Keibler gif for all over again. You know what I'm talking about. Stacy's
Yeah.
dancing on the desk, and Vince is, oh yeah, that's good stuff right there. Jade Cargill is the biggest. She looks like the biggest star. If you put every women's wrestler across the country, you put WWE, AEW, Impact, New Japan Strong, ROH, you put them all together, line them up, and you say to 15 different wrestling fans, who's the biggest star? Without a doubt, 14 of the 15 pick Jade Cargill.
The
Not
other
based
one
on
will
in
be
ring work.
Bianca Belair.
Yep.
Yep.
And it's not even close. Jade Cargill came out looking like a freaking mega star, and got the Grammy Award winner on
Holy
the
shit!
guitar.
That dude was making
that was
love
great.
to that guitar.
He was. I love. Somebody tweeted there. They're like, "Yo, good on Keith Lee, man. He goes out and does a ladder match, and now he's playing the guitar too."
Oh, and no, between the Mortal Kombat outfit, which also, by the way, it's not AOL Time Warner anymore, but Turner was in cahoots with Warner at one point, and WB owns Mortal Kombat, so or is in cahoots with NetherRealm. Anyway, no, she's absolutely fantastic. In my opinion, she's the anti-Goldberg, because Goldberg was brought out as just a massive force and never got better. Like, what you saw was Goldberg, and he just was. And Jade, you kind of had that feeling at the front where you're like, okay, they're just going to have her run roughshod over the stuff. And she's taken that and went, no, I'm going to make this my life. I'm going to do this. And fucking props to her because she is good. She's making the TBS title feel more important than the women's title, and that's what you should do with secondary titles.
What a fucking outing for her, too. This was her first pay-per-view. This was her first fucking pay-per-view match, defending the TBS title, and she fucking killed it. And take nothing away from Ty Conti, because Ty Conti looked great in that match. Those two worked the perfect David and Goliath style match. And Jay Gargill busting out the fucking frog splash. Holy shit, the tuck she got on that frog splash was amazing.
Further proof that she's taking it seriously.
Daniel Bryan
is expanding her game.
Bryan Danielson said, I'm jealous of the wrestler that she is because she walks out to that ring with more confidence and charisma than I have ever done in my entire career.
Yep.
Can we talk about how fucking hard she kicked Anna Jay, though?
Oh, she kicked the
Into the
shit
edge of the
out her.
table. Oh.
And you can tell, like, there was that tiny, like, that was her Randy moment, because she kicked her, and there was a split second where she turned her head and she went like that, and then she got right back into the character. So it wasn't quite the, like, Randy and the Singh brothers thing, but it was enough to, like, there was some realism there where she was like, shit, I just hurt her. And then she's like, back at it, let's go.
She made up for that fucking chair shot. No, but it was a great match to calm the crowd down while still being entertaining to prepare people for what was next. Me personally, this is 3 out of 5.
It was a better match than the women's championship match.
100%. Like
by a long shot. By considerable.
I think if you would have swapped the positions on the card for the women's title matches, I think Thunder and Britt may have been a little better, but this match still would have been better, and I think it would have kept the crowd alive after CM Punk and MJF.
I think we can agree, gentlemen. This match fucked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We got
It
some
did what it was
HLA
supposed
for the
to do.
first time in a while.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is that so many people didn't understand the reference, like why it happened, and they were just like, "Oh, she's just trying to get in her head." It's like, no, she's playing up the Jade kiss from Mortal Kombat. Like that's the play here. It's actually, I mean, it's smart.
Mm-hmm.
The nice thing here, and I think the reason that people aren't going to turn on Jade the way that like they might have if Tony continued to say that, you know, she's Goldberg, is that you can see that she's putting in the work.
Yes.
It's so evident that she's gotten better and that she's taking it seriously and that she's continuing to expand her arsenal. I don't know. I think that like maybe more than anything else, a wrestling crowd wants to see that you care. And especially for somebody who came into this industry as not like a long-term trained wrestler, but as like a model, as a fitness model, like she's taking it seriously and she looks legit. And like, I'm sorry, but like, if you put her in a program right now against Britt Baker or against Thunder Rosa when Thunder Rosa wins, and Jade's like, listen, I'm gonna be that 2-belt bitch, like I'm here for it. Absolutely. And I honestly see the only way that Jade loses it is if like Tony Storm comes in, which maybe will happen at some point. But like you need somebody to come in to take Jade out. Like it needs to be somebody who's believable in that position, but then immediately send Jade after the big belt. The much better looking, by the way, belt. Because otherwise, like there's nobody in this division, nobody who should beat Jade Cargill. None. Not a soul.
So if you notice, when things go right in wrestling, it gets copied. And what has WWE done? They brought in Nikita Lyons to essentially try to recreate what's happening with Jade Cargill right now. You brought in another fitness model who is, you know, an opposing figure against the rest of your roster, and that's where you're at with that. But props on Jade, great outing on this, and really fun match. I had a lot of I was pleasantly surprised. Clinton decided to go to the liquor store and get chocolate during this match.
I did. I was high.
I sat down and watched it, and it was fantastic while I was fixing a chair. So
I've watched the whole pay-per-view today while I was at work. That match hit pretty hard. I felt bad.
you hear that,
using as-
Verizon?
Get your fucking hand off the microphone. It's so staticky when you do that.
What if I do?
Can you hear me now?
I don't
Good.
know what to do with my hands.
Put them at your fucking side.
I can't. Do you understand?
Shut the fuck up!
I am the
There it
equivalent of a NASCAR driver. when it
Anyways,
comes
let's
to
talk
giving
about the match
interviews.
that I want to talk about the most, and that's Punk and MJF. 5 stars.
It was a bad match.
What? You see, that's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
It was a bad match.
This is where the crowd died because they were emotionally spent. Everything
bad
about
match.
the match. From the fucking Punk entrance to the whole Max getting on the microphone early in the match and asking him to quit and Punk telling him to eat shit. The pile driver on the apron. All the work to fucking MJF's hand to eliminate the salt of the earth submission. Wardlow coming out when MJF was just crying for him. The thumbtack spots. The most well-built thumbtack spots I've seen in a minute. MJF had the best sell of a thumbtack spot I've ever seen, with just him sitting up from the dead, just eyes up and just pure white in his eyes. MJF gets hit with the GTS after Wardlow turns. CM Punk just stares at Wardlow. He pulls the ring out of his pocket. Whoops. Sets it down. Punk clocks him in the fucking face with it. 1, 2, 3. I wanted MJF to win. Don't get me wrong. But that was a beautifully told story that you can lead into when eventually MJF wins the belt. Punk and MJF for the title. 5 stars.
It was-
My favorite program AEW's done. I've made a complete 180 on it. It's the best program they've done.
The match was endemic of the entire build. It's been an overrated mess of garbage. The match was maybe the worst one on the card. It was slow.
Worse than Baker and Rosa?
Yes. It was slow. It was methodical. It told a story. It was brutal. It really pulled at your heartstrings. It was a bad match, man. It was a badass match, man. It was bad. And I loved it. I loved every second of it. That's great. No, it was fantastic. It was so good. You're right. The thing that was like stunning, I know. The thing that was stunning about it is you watch the crowd, and like the way that the crowd didn't react to the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa match, where they're just like,
Oh yeah, is it time for popcorn yet, honey? I don't know, maybe.
like they were just drawn to it. Like I felt myself just like I couldn't look away because there's just this slow build. I actually, the one thing I don't agree with is the thumbtack spot. Like I thought the like adding the comedy into it of like MJF really selling it, I thought kind of took away a little bit. But I also didn't think you needed thumbtacks because it's a dog collar match. I thought it was just, like it's brutal enough. You don't need that. But it was very good. I had a moment where I thought to myself for a second, like when MJF duped everybody with Cult of Personality, I was like, what are you going to do now? Because you never do that on a show, right? Like you never have somebody punk with the intro music and then have the guy come out to his intro music. And so when the lights dropped, you started seeing the smoke and the light and everything. I was not a Ring of Honor person. I couldn't have told you what his theme was. I remember people, throwing out the idea that he might have gone with that song when he debuted in AEW, that he was going to leave Cult of Personality behind because it's associated with WWE. But like, even for me, I don't know what his song was. I didn't know if it was by AFI. I had no draw to that, but I knew what it was. Like I knew that he was hearkening back, and because they had planted the seeds in the couple of episodes leading up to Revolution, where there's callbacks to his ROH days, and that stuff starts going around Twitter, like then it was just brilliant, right? Mm-hmm. And like seeing the shorts, I knew the shorts. The shorts I understood. I honestly was a little bit surprised that he didn't dye his hair. I thought there was a chance that like when you see him go all in on the ROH stuff, I thought, all right, like, is he going to come out with like the bleached hair? And he didn't, which is probably a good idea for a guy his age. But like still, there were so many levels to this that were exceptional. I wanted MJF to win conceptually, But once he came out like that, I was like, you can't have him lose.
This is Punk's.
Punk can't
this is
lose
Punk's
with
match.
that. Like, yeah, it has to be, right? That's damn good.
This should
Really
main
good.
evented. This should have main evented.
Absolutely. That's where you have to have balls as a booker. You have to. There are people who believe that if you don't main event the pay-per-view with the world title match, that it diminishes the world title match. And that is so dumb to me, right? Because it totally throws the concept of storytelling out the window. It minimizes the importance of storytelling. This was the best build. This was the most intriguing storyline. This was a story that for a week had people who hate the biggest heel in the company reaching out saying, I'm also a Jewish man who went through similar things, who also had coins thrown at him, and that connected with me. Or my son has been bullied, and that was a really brave thing you did. And you're getting all these people who are saying, my God, this guy, I hate him, but he touched my soul. And then he goes out and he busts the dude open, and they're hanging Punk leading up to the pay-per-view. That's a freaking story. You might never tell a story quite like this one. If there's ever a time that you need to main event the pay-per-view with a non-title match, it was this one.
This
And
isn't
to me,
back.
it's inexcusable to have it be where it was on the card. It needed to relative to everything else that was coming after it, but like this should have been the main event, and I don't think it should have been close. That's how you end the pay-per-view.
A big fucking babyface turn. The babyface coming out on top of a brutal fucking story that spanned months, longer than fucking Cole and Hangman did.
Yep,
Longer. This
that was
fucking,
hot, that was like a hot shotting. Those two
it
together.
was. Like, really, like, did they have a good match? Yeah, but the main event of this show, and I guarantee you, the match that people paid to see was Punk and MJF. This
100%.
wasn't Backlash 2018, where it was Styles and Nakamura on the mid card of the show, and Joe and fucking Roman headlining the pay per view. That isn't a situation like this. That's a time where you have to put the title on last, because why? There's nothing fucking else going on the pay per view. You end with the title. This was the best story that AEW has told. This is the best build that AEW has had. This is the most connected that anyone has ever been to either of the characters in AEW, whether you're for the face or for the heel. You main event with this pay-per-view. You main event with this match because the whole pay-per-view after this suffered because this match went on 5th.
This is the same thing that they have screwed up when they put Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson first at Arthur Ashe. It's the same problem that they run into when they put a TNT title match as the first match on Rampage. You kill the crowd. You have to be cognizant of how the crowd is going to react and the burnout that you're going to cause because of the placement of the match relative to what is yet to come. If this is the second to last or the third to last match, and you put in like the trios match or whatever in between, okay. Or if you put the women's championship match in between, which admittedly you're putting in as a lull to try to build back up for Paige and Cole, fine. It can't be with like 4 more matches to go. It just can't be.
If you wanted my opinion, there should have been 4 matches swapped on this card. You should have had Hangman and Cole go on 5th, and then put the main event. Listen, hear me out. I'm making sense. You should have swapped those 2 for 5th and 9th, and then I would have swapped Baker Rosa for Jade and Ty, because I do believe Ty and Jade would have been the better match to lead off of a world title match, because that was more energetic. It kept the crowd more interested. The match really, for like we've said, for Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker didn't pick up until the final 8th, when it was just Thunder Rosa firing back against everyone. I feel like the card would be damn near perfect if you would have swapped those 4 matches around. You could have kept everything else the same. I do truly believe that the 6-man tag should have been the penultimate match. That was fantastic to build into a world title match, or in this case, it would have been Punk and MJF. But that's my only gripe, was that we don't get tired from watching exciting wrestling. We don't. We can watch a PWG event from start to finish and feel like I can watch another PWG event because they go and go and go. When you take everyone emotionally in the middle of your pay-per-view with still a full 2 hours to go, everyone is emotionally and mentally spent. And now we have to pull ourselves out of that to get excited again for the fast-paced wrestling, which Baker and Rosa did not do. Which I feel Ty and Jade could have done very well. That's it. I'm going to go get a water while you guys talk.
Ethan.
Hi.
Hi.
I don't have opinions on this match.
Really?
Yeah, I was letting him have all the opinions on it. My more important thing in this, because I don't have a problem with anything that happened in it. It was a good watch, and it was a good match. I'm ready for the Wardlow heel turn. I'm ready to get to that.
Heel turn?
Not
what?
the heel turn. I'm ready for Wardlow to be
turn.
the face turn. I'm ready for that. That's where I'm at. So after the ladder match, I'm like, when's it happening? So lead up, it happens at the end of this. His facial expressions tell the whole story. There's no talking. Punk gets the win. The right guy won in this case. Had he not done the whole, had they not started off with everything with the theme switch up, all of that stuff, MJF winning probably would have been the right thing, or MJF or finishing out the same way it was. It was a great match, like you said, or like you guys said, the emotions pulled everybody else out of it, and that's where it was at this point.
5 out of 5.
I'm sure if I go back and watch it, I'll feel a little bit better about it. I was a little preoccupied at the time, but still a good match.
Yeah. And we've talked about the Baker Rosa match enough, so we'll skip on to the next match on the card, which was Moxley and Danielson.
This match fucked. This match was aggressive and beautiful and just everything. So this was just straight up dudes fighting.
If you touch your
each
mic
other.
one more time, I'm
touching my mic.
I'll break your
Touch
fucking
my
hands.
mic like I'm gonna beat my dick later. Listen to me. This
Super
match
easy.
was awesome.
And
Super
that, ladies
easy.
and gentlemen, is why he missed so much of this match.
That's not why I missed so much of this.
When
This
he
match
said
was
he
fucking awesome.
preoccupied, He means he was touching his microphone.
The best part about this match was, and this is what people need to realize in wrestling can happen. You don't always need a heel. You don't always need a face. I understand Bryan is kind of the heelish tactic in this case, just based upon his general aura that he brings with them to the ring. Moxley's kind of the face because the crowd's always behind him. But the crowd's behind both of them in this case, and you got everything that you wanted and everything that you expected out of it. These guys bled with each other. They bled for each other. They bled against each other. It was hard hitting. It was paced correctly because you got two guys that know how to frame a match. They know how to start it. They know how to end it. Even after the bell rang, the action was still there. The emotion was high. The tenacity was still there. And it led to one of the best endings of the night and one of the better surprises that doesn't involve an in-ring competitor.
Yeah, William Regal coming out to stop
problem.
his two sons from fighting was pretty fucking cool.
I think that's the problem, though. I love Regal showing up, and not because it's a great moment for it, not just for the smacking your proteges around, which is awesome and is really the only way to kind of center those two, and now gets to tell the story of those two teaming up, which I think is great, and I'm very much looking forward to. Like, Regal behind the scenes, if there was any question about, does Tony Khan trust anybody to potentially run Ring of Honor, if you hired William Regal, and you're not immediately handing the keys over, or at least handing over a spare key to William Regal, then I don't know what we're doing here.
No.
Like, if you can't trust the guy to do... Honestly, let's just pull back for a second. Regal and Cody together running Ring of Honor is what should happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big Cody guy. But, like, Cody found Jade, Cody found Wardlow, right? Like, or at least those two
Cody
credited
found Sammy.
Cody. Like, Cody has a good eye for talent. And if his idea is to, like, make the transition into being, like, the Dusty Booker, then, like, then he and Regal together working on developmental, even though I don't necessarily love that as what Ring of Honor should become as a developmental, like NXT, like you put those two together as like your scouting department. Like it's great. So anyway, I love Regal. I feel like the Regal thing though is the most memorable moment of the match. Like I don't right now have 3 spots from this match that I look back at and say those were the defining moments. I look back and I say Regal showing up and smacking those guys around and saying shake each other's hands. That to me is the lasting memory. And maybe that's not a bad thing. It might not be. But that to me is like the moment where like there's no better time. You couldn't have brought Regal out on Dynamite and smacked them around. It had to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But that to me, that moment kind of, I don't want to say overshadows the match, but it's like the antithesis of the exploding barbed wire death match fizzling out. You don't remember anything about Moxley versus Omega, even though it was a really good match. And even though there were good moments in it, you're left with the aftermath as the thing that kind of is burned into your brain. I think. At least for me it is. Maybe not for you guys, but for me it is.
I don't think that that's a bad thing in this case, though, because it's leading. This match wasn't about the match. This match was about the future with these two. It was about getting to that point. And the match, you knew was going to be a solid match. These guys weren't going to show you anything you haven't seen from them yet. I didn't think so. There was a chance they could because they're both trustworthy guys. They're guys that can work well together. They know each other. But this was getting to what Bryan Danielson had brought up about bringing people under their wings, about getting to that point. So are these the guys we're going to see go on to make a run at the tag team titles? If that's the case, that's one hell of a credible tag team. There's one small thing about Regal coming out that I really liked, and it shows the purpose that with which Regal is there. He didn't come down the ramp. He came alongside the ramp. He didn't have entrance music. He was there for a purpose. He wasn't there to make it about himself. He was there to enhance the guys that are in the ring.
There's no better person in the fucking world to do that than William Regal. Exactly. I'm with you. If Cody and William Regal are running Ring of Honor as a developmental brand for AEW, there's no bounds. There's no limits for that organization. Like, WWE would be dead in the water if they had to go up against AEW and Ring of Honor on TV, because I'm pretty sure they're still getting a TV deal with Ring of Honor.
They should run Ring of Honor on Tuesday nights.
Mm-hmm.
Ring of Honor should be almost like a territory show. Don't change the system that Ring of Honor had with where they go. They play small venues. They don't get into the large crowds. You don't do things like that. Use Ring of Honor as your location to, if you have a working contract with New Japan, bring them over. Continue the War of the Worlds thing. Have the people experience the country that way, because then, oh hey, I saw that guy on a Ring of Honor show, or I saw that lady from Stardom on a Ring of Honor show, or something like that. It's not like, oh my god, it's Minoru Suzuki, but unless you watch the shit, you don't know who Suzuki is. It's like if they were to bring Sonata over right now. He might be the IWGP US champ, but if you don't know who Sonata is, then that means jack shit to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
No, but I thought this match was great. I thought the roll-up finish was a great finish for it, where Danielson had the choke in, the triangle choke, and Moxley just flipped over him to get the 3 count. They kept beating each other up until Super Angry Dad came out, slapped the shit out of both of them, and made them shake hands. Honestly, the best wrestling match of the night was that match.
The nice thing is, too, that the report came out after Revolution that Regal has been hired to be on screen and behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And you needed somebody... How do I put this in a nice way? You need somebody to rein Captain ADHD in. You have to. If you're going to make a meaningful next few steps, you have to have somebody that's got credibility that he also thinks he can trust. I do believe, in my heart of hearts, that Tony Khan wanted Jim Cornette at some point, but Cornette just wouldn't do it. I don't think that there was any way that Cornette was ever going to come in with a lot of the guys that Clint especially likes. I don't think that he was ever going to come in. I think that actually now, like if you had this crew, if you had like a lot of these former WWE guys and a lot of these other guys that were NXT that were misused or were heading down a misused path, if you had that like 18 months ago and you said to Cornette, this is what we have, maybe there's a chance. But like Regal, is certainly a guy who's proven an ability to find talent, develop talent. And like, if you're Tony Khan, even if you have convinced yourself that you have to be involved in everything and book everything, if you don't have the humility at this point to say, this guy's proven it and I can trust him or rely on him, then there's a bigger issue at hand. Like, then in that case, you are the kind of like, rich kid that everybody just wants to make you out to be, that the detractors want to make you out to be. You have to be willing to delegate some responsibility, and you have that guy now, without a doubt. And somebody who, by the way, if the idea was that like Cody could potentially pull some of the young AEW talent to WWE, Regal could just as easily turn around and probably pull a lot of really good talent that not only were on the NXT roster, but have made the main roster, and credit Regal as being a guy who took them to that next level. There's a real value play, big picture here, and I love it.
This guarantees
This is
Johnny
now
Gargano.
a war.
Yeah, this guarantees Johnny.
I don't care.
I know.
Is that bad?
Well, so here's
You
my
don't-
question. You talk about the Cornette thing. So say Regal stays on with just AEW. He's only handling AEW stuff, and he's trying to make sense of the main show booking, which I think is where he should be at. So say you bring Cody back in to be involved with Ring of Honor. Who would you rather put with him? Would you rather would you rather bring back Kerry Silken, who's in a Ring of Honor original, knows a lot about bringing this stuff up? Would you rather put a Jim Cornette, who I think actually would work really well with Cody, just because of Cody's background and appreciation with it? I know it sounds crazy.
He
but his
hates Cody.
I know.
I don't know if you
I
listen
know,
to his
but-
show. He hates Cody.
I know,
Like,
but I
there's
feel
no way
like
that
he
Cody
hates him.
hates the guy.
I just that, or do you bring Gabe back? You could bring Gabe Sapolsky back, and guys that he was scouting for Evolve and stuff before that went under.
Maybe.
There's so many things to do. There's so many options. There's so many things that you could go with here. But
can have
Regal's the best choice to bring in, to
I
rein
think,
in, like you
honestly,
said, to rein in Tony Khan.
If there were a chance to actually bring Cornette in, like, I think it would just be to hand him the keys to Ring of Honor and let Regal be the guy with Khan to work on all of the AEW stuff, including Dark and Dark Elevation. See, like, the big issue that I have, just like conceptually with what Ring of Honor is and could be and all that, is like, I think you should run it as a brand. I don't necessarily think that it should be a developmental. Dark and Dark Elevation should be fully developmental. They are useless shows right now as they stand. You should not have to watch them to understand what's going on the show. And there are so many talents who have been lost in the shuffle because they can't get on the 3 hours of national TV programming that it almost makes sense to loan them out to Ring of Honor, right? Like, FTR said on Twitter that if the Briscoes don't watch out, they're going to come take the Ring of Honor tag team titles. And I'm not saying that I want that. I think FTR belongs on AEW. But if you're not going to find a spot for them, or you're not going to find a spot for Santana and Ortiz, then send them to Ring of Honor and let them make that a legitimate brand. And then once a year, make a Survivor Series between the two brands. And like, let that actually be a legitimate heads up champion versus champion, put it all out there. And like, that to me makes sense. But I don't know if they're going to do it. What's he doing? Is he okay?
Having
He
a
just
good-
heaved a cat out the door.
No, I walked him out the goddamn door because he's sitting here trying to chew on cables underneath my desk because I'm not giving him attention. An asshole.
Well, that leads us into the trios match where Sting tried to kill himself.
It was a spot fest.
Yep.
It was a very, very good spot fest. It was a palate cleanser for the main event. It was exactly what it needed to be. I felt like after I saw this match, if you put the TNT title match here, it would have completely overshadowed the main event. This six-man was a great, great, great match and exceeded my expectations in every way. That Spanish fly off the set through the tables was great. Sting jumping off and crashing through 4 tables was awesome. Darby Allin missing the coffin drop completely and still pinning Matt Hardy for the 3 was even better.
I don't have any complaints with it. It was just it was a movement into the main.
Yeah. into the main, which was Adam Cole versus Hangman Adam Page.
Let's
I
go, Adam.
thought
Adam sucks.
that fucking killed me. The whole "Let's go, Adam," and then eventually they turned into "Let's go Cole," like Adam Cole or Hangman Page. Like eventually turned into that, but for the first half of the match, they were all chanting for Adam. Adam Cole coming out in the cool Spartan armor. I like that. That was pretty fucking cool. It was stupid.
That was
but cool.
stupid. That was stupid. And you know why he did it, right? Because he hasn't gone to the fucking gym in 3 months. And so the way that you make yourself look bigger coming down the ramp is by putting on Spartan armor so nobody sees that you haven't gone to the gym in 3 months.
Honestly, of all the matches on the card, I know this is sad to say, this is the one I have the least to say about, which I shouldn't be saying about your world title. But like I said, every single match after CM Punk and MJF suffered tonight.
There was a time, and I'm sure Russ knows what I'm talking about. So they're on the outside of the ring. They've come off their camera side. They're on the outside of the ring and they're walking around. And Excalibur makes a comment about how Adam Page weighs 26 pounds more than Adam Cole. And I'm sitting here going, where would you put 26 pounds of weight on Adam Cole to get him to look like Adam Page? And I'm like, realistically, no. He weighs 35 to 40 pounds more than Adam Cole.
Easily.
And I just, this is the most, which I...
Go ahead. Say
there's
it.
just...
Say it. Don't you dare
he
censor
loses
yourself.
he loses credibility because he I don't care if you don't look okay. So there's guys that don't look like jacked or whatever, and that's fine. You don't have to. You can be a good wrestler. Adam Cole's a good wrestler. Adam Cole's a great wrestler, but he doesn't look like a great wrestler.
FTR don't look like great wrestlers.
No, FTR are different though.
Cash looks more like a wrestler than Dax, but they're not like they don't look like Buddy Murphy.
No, but you don't have to. You don't have to look like that. But they still look. They look farm strong, is what I would call them. They look like blue collar strong. Adam Cole looks like he's doing what I do right now. Adam Cole and I have bodies built like milk. Like that's what it is.
The thing that killed Adam Cole's credibility wasn't just here. Let me piss off Clint. The thing that killed Adam Cole was the stupid feud with Orange Cassidy.
No, I don't disagree at all.
And it wasn't just because Orange Cassidy is a gimmick guy. He can actually go in the ring. If Orange Cassidy were pulled from that gimmick and the human being who plays Orange Cassidy were just a wrestler, we would believe him. But the gimmick is what it is. You put this guy who everybody knows in their heart of hearts is this gimmick wrestler who can go, but is a gimmick wrestler, against this guy who's like supposed to come in and like be a world title contender. They line up against each other, and the guy who's supposed to be a world champion, Adam Cole, stands next to Gimmick Guy, and Gimmick Guy looks like a professional wrestler comparatively. There's your problem. And from that moment, it undercut any credibility that Adam Cole has. At least physically, it undercut him. If you would put Adam Cole in a match against QT Marshall, you'd be like, oh, QT's bigger, but like, I don't know, he doesn't necessarily look like a pro wrestler, right? He looks like a guy who like has gone to the gym before and it's whatever. Adam Cole doesn't look, if you put Adam Cole and Sammy Guevara in the same ring, Sammy's going to look like a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
He's going to look skinny, but he's going to look skinny fit and also bigger. I don't know how you overcome that if you're Adam Cole. It's not as bad as like the Layla Hirsch thing that I said, like against Statlander, but like I don't know where you can put Adam Cole and not have him look so much smaller. John Silver is a short guy who still has muscle. I mean, like has muscles, right? And like, yes, he's gimmicky. Like he's gimmicky, but like he looks strong. Mm-hmm. Adam Cole doesn't look strong. And like there is nobody in the world title picture that you could put him across from that would be believable. Maybe Danielson, maybe because they've worked a match together. But I think arguably Adam Cole looked more buff and fit when he was with NXT than he does in AEW, which I also can't wrap my head around.
NXT was smaller guys though.
No, but I'm saying even when Adam Cole went up on like after the Saudi show and beat
Brian
Daniel
Danielson.
Bryan, No, because they're different people. Beat Daniel Bryan. Like that was more believable looking. If you put those two guys in a ring right now, I think Danielson looks much more legit.
You
I don't
can't
know
put
what
him
you do.
against somebody like Kenny. Look at him against
You
Kenny.
can't. No, it would be awful. Against the Bucks, that's the other thing. I forgot this. That's the other juxtaposition that's really bad. Adam Cole in the ring with the Bucks. I forget when it happened. When you see them like in their ring gear, but like, they were doing a trios match I think on Rampage like a month and a half ago, and I looked at it and I went, I don't look at the Young Bucks and say those guys look built or those guys look strong. I look at those guys and I say they work a certain kind of match that you love or hate, but like I don't equate them mentally with big strong.
They
But
have an
compared to
achievable
Cole,
body style.
yes, and compared to Cole,
They
they
have
look
achieved that body
bigger.
style.
Good on you, fella.
Wasn't hard.
The true world order. Sorry, I know I hijacked the whole thing here, but like, Clint, I don't even think you like. I don't know. You have the look of somebody who's been told like your girlfriend's not the one. She like I'm sorry, and she might be nice to you sometimes, but like you need to end it. It needs to end. That's what you look like right now.
I don't care about body I don't care about body imaging in wrestling. Like wrestling has always been like it's a make believe dance. That's what it is. It's dancing with
They have to
fucking
be
spots
credible,
and shit.
though.
Yeah, and you know
Rey
what?
Mysterio beat Kevin
but
Nash.
here's the
right?
thing. Here's the thing.
But
Here's
he
the
looked
thing.
credible.
Hold on. You've talked.
I have.
I've been watching Adam Cole for 7 years. Adam Cole has had the same body style all 7 years, and I've seen him go against the likes of people like Kevin Steen, the Briscoes, Jay Lethal, people that are bigger than him. So I know what kind of wrestler he is, and I know how believable he is. I'm taking nothing away from the way he looks because let's be real here. Like, I'm not taking anything away from Keith Lee either, but Vince put him in a singlet because he didn't like his body style. No matter who you look at, there's going to be someone in the world that doesn't like someone's body style or says they're too small for a certain division or anything like that. Me personally, I don't look at any of that. Can you go in the ring is what I go by. And Adam Cole for the past 4 years has been able to go. And he went tonight. Me saying there's nothing remarkable about this match, like if I go back and finish rewatching the pay-per-view, I'm pretty sure I'll have a lot of positive things to say. But for the placement on the card for me, it being going on at 11:20 on a Sunday night after 4 hours of wrestling, I'm tired. So I couldn't just get into it as I wanted to. But I love Adam Cole. I have nothing negative to say about Adam Cole whatsoever. I also follow him on fucking Twitch, and I think he's fun to watch gaming. I think he has a great presentation with all of his fans, and I think he is one of the best people on the mic, which if you can talk, you can do damn near anything in this business.
He's a really good wrestler. He's a really good worker.
Clint, I have to send you
He
something.
can't be your world champ.
I have to send
I don't
you
care if
something.
he's ever world champion.
So here's the thing.
But that's what he was brought in to be, right? Like that's what he was kind of billed as. They even brought up that he's a three-time Ring of Honor world champion. They
Yep,
said it when
three-time
he
Ring
was
of Honor
coming to
world
the ring.
champion.
Like you're not passing him off as a mid-card guy. You're not passing him off as a secondary title kind of guy. He wasn't brought in with that kind of thought process. If he had been, this isn't a conversation. They are trying, or they have been trying, to build him as a world title potential threat. And unfortunately, like, I don't like to say that a guy's too small, but to me, he doesn't have that look. He just doesn't.
Clint, I sent you something. I don't know if you can pull that up.
I did.
But so I sent Clint a picture, and this is credible to me. It's just he doesn't look like, and I'm not asking much, but against the person that he's against in this picture, it looks legitimate. And it just didn't look legitimate last night. And I think that because you also rushed the program. So rushing the program doesn't help it either. Had this program gone on longer, had there been backstage attacks on Adam Cole or Adam Page, had it not been just a play on, hey, we know each other and we've been roommates forever, it's it would have felt like there was more behind it, and there wasn't. I
I'm
just
not
feel
saying the build to this match was great.
no,
I'm not
I'm
saying
not.
that at all. It was definitely rushed.
But
I'm
you
just
could have
thinking
also
that
made
plays
this.
into it.
But
You
the
could have
whole
made this
body
feel-
imaging thing, it doesn't, like, that part of the argument doesn't do anything for me. Like, I don't care what you look like in the ring. Like, anyone can beat anyone on any given night.
I
Anyone.
disagree. But the thing is, like, you could have made it a more
Ethan,
legitimate thing.
I'm gonna break your hands. We can hear everything every time you touch the mic.
You could have made this more legitimate, though, in the same way that, like, the Britt Baker thing became a schmoz fest, right? Like, became too much interference. You could have done that with Red Dragon. You could have fixed an issue by having the referee throw Red Dragon out, and then you could have had the Bucks come down. Now, I know that, like, maybe the idea here is, like, the long play is going to be that Hangman and the Bucks make up, or that, like, Kenny comes back and is with the Bucks, and, like, Hangman maybe is, like, the deciding factor in that, like, 6-man arc that they're going to work on. But, like, if you had Red Dragon doing more interference to make it feel like Adam Cole had a legitimate chance, like, that to me is how you overcome the stature difference. I don't know. Keith Lee, like, if I get the body image idea, like, the other way, in the same way that I said, hey, I think Eddie Kingston, like, needs to have the gut away compared to, like, having it all the way out. Like, I think that there's, like, a threshold. But, like, Eddie's still a big guy, and his style still makes sense, right? Like, Eddie he's still a physically bigger guy, and you believe the brawler's style. Cole just doesn't have that, unfortunately, because I think he's a really good wrestler. And I think if you were putting him in the TNT title picture against Jungle Boy, Sammy Guevara, that's where he belongs. Like, unfortunately, I do think that there is a limit. Rey Mysterio is a smaller guy, height, than Adam Cole, I think.
He is.
But what has Rey always had? I mean, even back to his early WCW days, he's had the muscular structure that he looks like a strong little guy. And that's what allowed you to believe he could beat Kevin Nash on a given day, or that he could beat like a Mark Henry or a Big Show on a given day. Cole to me just doesn't have it because he doesn't have even like the wiry strong look. That's my problem. I know what you're saying.
I don't see it as a problem. I don't. Like, I might be weird, but I don't care.
You can have an opinion.
I don't really care. Like, we're past the days of WCW where everyone needs to have the same physique, where you got to look built and everything. Like,
it doesn't. But if you were to take this situation and remove Adam Page from it and put Lance Archer in there, you look like you're fighting a child. The only way that this match worked is because they had history with each other. The only way this match works with anybody is because they have history, or it's somebody like Jungle Boy or Sammy or somebody along that same size stature. And it's not me being like, it's got to be a big guy. It doesn't have to be, but we're also not the only people that have criticized Adam Cole for like seemingly not like putting in somewhat of the work. If you're in the main event, do a little bit. That's my thing. If you're in the main event picture, do a little bit. If you're on dark, I don't give a fuck. If you can wrestle, you can wrestle. There's guys that, like, look at Dante Martin. Dante Martin had zero muscle when they first brought him up on TV, but because he was crazy good at the aerial stuff, you got over that. Adam Cole has rode so long on him being that good in the ring that it's like, maybe you do want to actually take care of yourself a little bit. Like, you're getting paid to be there. Just give me a little bit.
Who's a wiry, strong-looking guy? Because Darby's all covered up, so you couldn't tell. Who's a good example of a wiry, strong-looking, fit young guy?
Back in the day, it would have been like Paul London.
No, I mean now. I mean like in AEW right now. If I plug and played a young, wiry, strong guy who has done a little bit more with his body, but is still young and is developing. There's
Reynolds?
One guy. Now, if I took Jungle Boy and put him into that match last night, he physically looks like he has a better shot. And it's not because he doesn't look like Buddy, right? He doesn't look like Buddy Matthews at all. But there's more credibility in his kind of wiry frame. I can buy that. If I were a non-fan and I had Hangman across from Jungle Boy versus Hangman across from Adam Cole, I think, I don't know, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10 people say Jungle Boy looks like a more legitimate competitor against Hangman. That's a problem. I don't know. Maybe Punk, if he were champion, and that's who you have going against Adam Cole. Like, Punk isn't as, I don't know, like he certainly doesn't look as built maybe as he was in his prime.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe that looks more legit.
Punk's getting to
I don't
old
know.
man strong now.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing.
No.
That's why I think that like that might have made more sense. Like the Cole push against like a Punk might have made more sense. I don't know. The history is there. I feel really bad. I feel like I broke Clint's spirit.
Nah, man,
And I
you ain't gonna
talk
break
too
my
much.
spirit about wrestling. I've dated a whole bunch of women that just shit talk wrestling. You ain't gonna fucking take my spirit away from it.
You dated one that threw
You
all
just
your
call me a
wrestling
lady?
shit away.
Did you just
Yeah.
call me a lady?
Are you guys dating? When's your anniversary? Can I come to the wedding?
It's June 29th at Little Caesars Arena when AEW comes to Detroit.
I really thought he was just gonna say at Little Caesars, like we're gonna pull up the table.
They don't have
You know
tables
what?
at Little Caesars.
Don't you?
They
Don't
used
come after
to.
her. We got better ingredients, better pizza, and that's why if you go to papajohns.com/on a forklift,
You can get your pizza with a side of racism. Hey.
Whoa. Whoa.
Well, that's why they kicked him
Whoa.
out.
Better ingredients, better pizza, not Papa John's.
Right. And no, we used to have chairs at them because we had these places called what was it, Caesarland? Was that what that was called, Clint?
Oh yes, the Wish.com version of Charles Entertainment Cheese.
Dude, we had a lot of them. Did you guys, Russ? Did you guys have Major Magics?
what is that?
So Major Magics is very much like Chuck E. Cheese, but
DZ
instead
Discovery Zone.
of like weird ass like animatronic rats, they had magic shows.
I've never heard of it before.
Everything
But I
else
like
was
the
the
sound of it.
same. Like all the shit, the games, the crawling structures, the germ, the petri dishes, that's all the same. But it was magic shows, and it was called Major Magics. Then we also had Kids Kingdom, which didn't have any of the animatronics, but it had a way cooler play place. So
Can I tell you
No,
the
I-
first time I ever went to a Chuck E. Cheese was our son's, must have been his 3rd birthday. We took them to Chuck E. Cheese. I had never gone to one in my entire life, and I always heard they were super skeevy. And there's one by us that's actually nice. Like, it was actually clean. I didn't feel like I was going to walk away with scurvy. And then 2 months later, the world shut down with COVID. So I don't know if that Chuck E. Cheese is still in business, but if it is, we'll go back there.
Yeah, Chuck E. Cheese was a place my dad took me and my mom took me in the hopes that one of the 4 of us would get abducted so they could save some fucking money.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at your childhood trauma.
No, that's okay. It's okay. My childhood trauma has made me a funnier human being.
God damn, it's an awful shame that one of you didn't go.
Yeah.
I
really.
can't imagine how they
Remember-
would abduct Trevor, so
We got kicked out one time because my little dipshit fuckhead brother kept walking on the skee ball ramp after they told him not to because he was just like, I want the hundreds, and they had the gate over it anyway, so he was just walking up and rolling the fucking balls under, hoping to get 100, but it was always just hitting the 10. That's
How
the
come
kind
your
of
okay, how come your family, and maybe this is going to be striking to you because you would have been technically the middle child in this situation.
yes,
Your family reminds me so much of Malcolm in the Middle.
100%. Not even close. Like, yeah, not even a question.
Like, no offense to Chelsea. I know she's not, like, I'm removing Chelsea from the equation. You, Trevor, and Dakota, you are literally that. But, like,
Hold on, I got a better one for you because this is essentially what our house was. We were home improvement plus 1 female child. I was definitely the Jonathan Taylor Thomas of my household, and that's a horrible thing to say.
why, JTT was a stud in the 90s.
But look at me.
You seen JTT now? He's just doing Hallmark movies. You could be doing Hallmark movies and making some moolah.
What, $30 a pop? No, thank you. To have my spirit crushed and to make 47
It's the-
Christmas movies about finding God, I'm
It's
pretty
the same
good.
thing as door dashing.
guys, I hate to interrupt, but arguably the best RKO happened on Monday Night Raw tonight.
Did he hit it off a frog splash on Montez Ford?
I would honestly put it up there with it's very close to the Seth Rollins curb stomp into RKO.
Is it on Twitter?
Yes.
Okay,
WWE on Fox tweeted it out. Chad Gable goes for a moonsault, and Orton hops up and RKO's him out of the moonsault.
Oh, there it is. Oh, that was pretty.
I mean, it's beautiful.
That
is a thing of beauty. That's top 2. It's that and the
top
Seth
3
Rollins one.
It's that the Rollins, and it's going to be hard to top the Evan Bourne one, the Shooting Star Press.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think that's top 3 for sure. Wow, that was a pretty moonsault too. Well, breaking news.
Oh, that was absolutely beautiful.
RK Bro are the new Raw Tag Team Champions going into Mania.
Yep. So
hopefully Chad Gable still gets a spot on the card because goddamn does he deserve it this year.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be one of the bright spots that I turn into WrestleMania for.
Can I ask for like the absolution of my sins? I had a really stupid moment not that long ago where I thought to myself that Chad Gable and Charlie Haas were the same guy. I heard all these people saying how much Chad Gable reminded them of Kurt Angle, and I was like, well, he was in Team Angle. In my head, that it was Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin, and I forgot about Charlie Haas, and I'm really sorry. Please tell me I'm not gonna like go to hell for that.
No. If you were gonna fuck up one of them, it's good that you fucked up Charlie Haas, not
Thank
Shelton
goodness.
Benjamin. Not going like, oh yeah, Chad Gable was totally Shelton Benjamin.
Shelton's mama would be all after you.
She was lovely. I enjoyed the Shelton's
That's what we'll do.
gimmick.
Our Mother's Day episode, we will do the top 3 moms in wrestling. Top 5 moms in wrestling.
Spoiler alert on number one.
Number 1.
Well, we'll give you numbers 5 through 2.
Yeah. If you don't know number 1, why are you watching this? Why are you listening to this?
RJ, do you want to return for Post Massacre 2 Electric Boogaloo, all about TNA wrestling?
I actually thought about it. I'm really disappointed that I couldn't make WCW. I would have been the reigning, defending, undisputed WCW champion.
I want to clarify, if I ever win this thing, which
scares me a little bit.
If I ever win this thing, which I'm hoping to with TNA, I'm going to put mine out there right now. It's not something that it's going to be the Ruthless Aggression era. That would be my pick.
Ooh.
So that would be my pick. But if anybody else wants a suggestion, Monday Night Wars. Monday Night Wars
is that'd be a really good one to do.
Well, hopefully one of you win it so you can pick the next one, because goddamn, my brain hurts writing this next quiz because I'm having to look up some very obscure shit.
I'm excited for it.
I'm just warning you, I'm gonna pick Noah. So
I don't know shit about Noah.
I don't either. I'm going to make all the questions. It's going to be great.
How many burning hammers were hit in a lifetime? That's about the only thing I know. All right, folks. I think that's going to do it from us from On a Forklift here tonight. We covered all of Rampage 6. Okay, I'm taking that one off.
Oh, Clinton's like, I'm running out of questions. How many sides did the ring have?
Russ, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
To cover Revolution with us. So from Clinton Davis,
Ethan Hubbard,
Russ Joy,
we are On a Forklift, and we will see you all next week. Oh,
and
we love you,
Trevor.
Judy.
Love you, Judy.